This hearing will come to order. I want to welcome all the witnesses. Thank you for your thoughtful testimony. I'm looking forward to this hearing. Coming from the business background, I've done a lot of strategic planning, and I've thought about this in terms of the federal government. And in business setting, I know a lot of people here in Washington haven't heard of a SWOT analysis. It's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if you were to do a SWOT analysis on the American economy, it's actually pretty easy to do. From my standpoint, the greatest strengths we have in this nation is we're the world's largest economy. If you're a manufacturer, I come from a manufacturing background, you want to be close to your customers. So it's a huge economic advantage we have in this country. And then we have relatively low energy prices. Also from a manufacturing background, if you're going to manufacture things, you need power. Cheaper power is better than expensive power. We should try and do everything we can to lower the cost of energy. And so those are our strengths. Our weaknesses, well, a huge weakness is the subject of this hearing here today. Our regulatory burden is huge, and of course we have a very uncompetitive tax system. I do want to put up a chart that I think pretty well describes what business organizations, what any organization's up against in terms of trying to expand, try and create good paying jobs. It's the regulatory burden. Now, I realize the numbers from National Association of Manufacturers or the Competitive Enterprise Institute in terms of their estimate, their cost estimate of how much it costs per year to comply with the federal regulations. I realize those are estimates. I realize people dispute that, but I think it's still good to kind of just put that estimate up against the size of our economies, just to put it in perspective. So whether you agree or disagree, the regulatory burden is huge. These estimates are somewhere between $1.75 and over $2 trillion per year. Now compare that to the size of the American economy. Last year is $16.8 trillion. So the regulatory burden potentially, again, this is a projection, potentially could be more than 12% the size of our economy. That is a massive burden on job creators, and we need to recognize that is a huge weakness. That's something this committee can really concentrate on, because there's literally got to be thousands of regulations that are hampering the ability of businesses in red states and blue states. And certainly what I've asked the members of this committee is, let's identify those. Let's work together. We don't have to ask anybody to violate the principles. We can find those areas of agreement for regulatory reform, whether it's streamlining, modernizing, just outright eliminating those regulations would be very helpful to our American economy. The last point I want to make in terms of the actual size is we've listed the GDPs, the size of the economies of the 10 largest economies in the world. You'll notice our regulatory burden is as large as all but 10 economies in the world. I mean, that is what we're burdening job creators with, and I think that's a pretty significant burden. I do want to point out that Senator Langford is here. I appreciate that. He's going to be chairing a subcommittee of this committee that is really going to be focusing on regulatory reform. So this is sort of the committee level kickoff meeting, let's put it that way, and Senator Langford is really going to be lasering in on this and, again, trying to find those areas of agreement. So I appreciate that, and you will be sitting in the chair here for a few moments while I go to the Budget Committee. Last point I want to make to indicate the level of burden here, and again, this is not perfect, but if you take a look at the number of Federal Register pages published, now this is actually published versus what's the federal regulation, this is in a particular year. On an annual basis, during the FDR administration, it was about 15,000 per year. Under Nixon, it was 45,000. They were publishing about 80,000. So we're just kind of ramping up this potential problem. Again, just trying to put some sort of perspective to the regulatory burden. I think Mr. Holtz-Eakin will speak a little bit more to some of these metrics. With that, I'll turn it over to our ranking member.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Very nice to see you all today. Thank you.